Well, pronounced are everybody. Good afternoon, members and officers. Welcome to this multi-locational meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee being held in the Sir Howie Room, Penarthur House and via Microsoft Teams on Friday the 15th of May 2026. Just to confirm that this meeting will be live streamed and recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images and audio of those individuals present and or speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website. If members lose connection during the meeting, please make every attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as it remains quorate. Committee services staff, as always, are available and will be able to assist you to reconnect if needed. I wish to also remind everyone that the Chair has the discretion to terminate or suspend the webcast if, in their opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings or that continued webcasting might infringe the rights of any individual. The Chair also has the right to remove persons from the physical and from the digital meeting link if that is necessary. Members attending remotely, please leave on your cameras but mute your microphones. Members attending physically will be picked up on the room microphones when you are called on to speak. Members and officers should only speak after the Chair has invited them to speak on an item. Today, we'll be using Microsoft Forms to vote on agenda items 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11 and 12. And as per usual, the voting poll will appear and then members are asked to click on the for, against or abstain and click submit vote. If there's any problems at all accessing the voting pop-up, please indicate and we'll take your vote verbally. I'll just take a roll call of those present. Councillor Adams.
Present, Chair.
We've had apologies from Councillor Broughton-Pettit. Councillor Chacken-Dawson.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I'm present.
Okay, we can see you. Councillor Davis, Elizabeth Davis. I don't think she is with us today. Apologies from Councillor Enright. Councillor, I can never pronounce this, is it Gare or Geyer?
Gare.
Gare. Councillor Gare. Councillor John Taylor. Okay. And Councillor Kerry Wright, Vice Chair.
Present.
Thank you. Then lay members, Nigel Yates.
Present, Chair.
Viv Pearson.
Present, Chair.
And Joe Williams.
Margaret Oath.
We've had apologies from Cabinet Member Councillor Stenner. There's also apologies from Mark Williams, Leanne Sykes, Sarah Rose and Lynn Donovan. I understand Sarah isn't very well. She's I hope she's better soon. There's a number of officers here that I may not have seen before. I wonder if you could introduce yourselves, if you don't mind.
Start this end. Catherine. We read.
Johan Richards, I'm the Business Improvement Officer.
Thank you.
PS, I'm the Business Improvement Manager. Serena Ford, Head of Organisational Development.
Lisa Ling, Deputy Monitoring Officer.
Rono, Internal Audit Manager.
Nicola Robert, Chief Accountant.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Okay, so agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and/or prejudicial interest in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Please use hands up function to indicate if you have any such declarations. Okay, thank you for that. And then agenda item 3, to approve and sign the minutes for accuracy of the Special Governance and Audit Committee meeting which was held on the 30th of March 2026. Does anybody have anything that they wish to bring up on any of those 4 pages of minutes that we've got in front of us? Yeah, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a matter of misunderstanding maybe in the minute on item 4. I hope I'm in the right place. There's the Special Governance and Audit Committee on 2nd of February, is that correct? Yes, is that the one we're dealing with? Page 6 of the papers.
Looking at the
What are we?
right, it's the minutes of the meeting that we held on the 30th of March.
Is that? That's not the one. This is another one that I have a query on then.
Okay, and then the other minutes is going to be the 14th of April. Is it that there's a reference to it in the minutes?
Yeah, well, page 6 of these papers that are in front of us. You know, we were presumably we were approving, weren't we, on the 14th of April? And on page 6 of these papers that are in front of us, that's being item 4, that's headed. Am I looking at the right set of papers?
Joe, we're looking at the 30th of March minutes.
Yes. So I gather. Why am I looking at the 2nd of February minutes? Right, maybe I'm in the wrong set of papers here, am I? May we're in today, aren't we?
Yeah, so looking at the minutes of the meeting we held on the 30th of March, I fully appreciate there might be a reference in there to a previous meeting. Is that what you're talking about?
No, sorry, it's the next lot. It's the next minutes of the 14th of April.
Okay, right. Okay, so if no one's got anything to bring up on those specific meetings, I'll have someone to move.
I will move those, Chair. A second.
Thank you both. Okay, so those have been approved. Now we go on to agenda item 4, which is to approve and sign the minutes for accuracy of the Governance and Audit Committee, which was held on the 14th of April 2026. So, Joe, is it in here that
I hope so. Page 6 then.
there's item 4,
Item 4.
special governance
Correct.
on the 2nd of February.
The last paragraph, misunderstanding here about what this was about really, because I'm the member involved here. And I was asking about the items that are sent by email between meetings, you know, after a meeting.
Yeah.
And there had been a number. So I was asking about how are they recorded, really? How are those emails and that information, how is it recorded? and it was clarified after a little while that they are referenced on the action log. They're actually referenced on the action log, probably in the next meeting.
Yes.
But they are actioned, or that they are referenced, that an
Yes.
email has been sent, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But that's not what this paragraph says, unfortunately. This doesn't really say that. This talks about queries that were to arise on those items. I think that was what the
Yes.
point
Yeah.
was about, really. It was simply to say that action log will refer to those.
Yes, yeah, I think if I can remember rightly, because I think I may have mentioned it as well at some point about a record
That's right.
that, you know, so that nothing was lost.
That's correct.
As you know, there was a record of it that anyone could see that these questions had been asked and there were answers to it, which, yes, that paragraph doesn't really cover what we meant there. Is there any way, forgive me, I'm looking to officers here, can we end that?
Chair, I think probably it does cover it because it says that the issues will be addressed following the meeting, and it appears from what Mrs Williams is saying that it was addressed and obviously reference the action log was made. So I think it sort of does address the point in that the issues raised were subsequently covered.
No, sorry, Lisa, that's the point. It wasn't that. The question that was asked was simply, how are we recording email communications from officers between meetings? And it was clarified that they will be referred to in the action log along the line where the agenda item is listed, so that they would be recorded. So, for example, you know, where it says on the action log, action taken or whatever, by whom, there will be a note in there to say email sent on March 31st or whatever. And that's all. That's all that's needed, really. You know, there's no great big long record required. It's just to reference the communication, the action log.
If members are happy, they can approve the minutes subject to a slight
Yes.
clarification.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that proviso, someone to move the minutes?
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you. Seconded?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Great, those have been agreed and passed. Okay, so agenda item 5, Governance and Audit Committee Action Log, which we were just talking about. We've been asked as a committee to note the action log and agree any changes. Nicola Roberts, thank you.
Thank you. Action log has been updated following the last committee meeting. The committee will note that, as agreed at the previous meeting, all completed actions have now been removed from the log. A new column has been added to record the completed date. Risk items have been retained and updated to show on target as requested. These will be further updated following today's agenda item. There are currently no actions with overdue dates, and several items are scheduled to be considered by the committee at today's meeting. The committee is asked to agree the removal of the 7 items that have now been completed and are shaded blue on the action log.
Thank you, Nicola. Okay, does anybody have any queries, questions, comments? Thank you. So now we've been asked to note it, but I've got on my script here Move and second. Is that right?
Chair, we can vote on that if that's on your script.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll move for those items to be removed because it's less clutter on the list.
Thank you.
Yes, I will second that one, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Those have been agreed. Okay. Just before I go on to agenda item 6, and as you heard, Lisa, there's been a couple of meetings where we've been asked to note this, and then there's been the formal vote on it, and I'm a little bit confused as to note it. You just note it. You don't formally agree it. Am I?
No, that's a fair point, Chair. I think we'll look at the recommendations going forward and tailor them. So if there's requirement to note and agree, then we'll make that clear in the recommendations. Then.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I just add, I'm sure there have been a number of scrutiny committees over the years where we've had noted in the minutes for the chair follows, but because of the number of questions that have then got asked in that agenda item, it's somehow been decided, perhaps we should vote on it.
Okay.
So if that can be made much more clear,
Yeah.
and all you need then is for one member to say, I propose we note, and the chair to say thanks and move on.
Yeah.
Right. Can I just raise one question? I'm a bit perplexed. 17, the financial statements for 24-25, and it says there, workshop undertaken on the 7th of May 26. Do we know what that was? That was?
Yeah.
That was an internal workshop within the finance staff.
That's fine.
Exactly how.
Okay.
That's fine. I knew that we didn't have one, so I wasn't sure.
Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 6. Governance and Audit Committee Forward Work Programme. Again, we've been asked to note the Forward Work Programme and agree any changes. Nicola again.
This report presents the updated Forward Work Programme for the Governance and Audit Committee. There are 2 reports currently in development which need to be scheduled for a future meeting, and these are the Cyber Security and Internal Audit Wales Internal Audit Review. Both reports are currently progressing through the governance process and will be brought to the most appropriate future meeting, most likely to be July. The committee is therefore asked to note the Forward Work Programme.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything to say on that?
Chair. Mr Jones has his hand up. I'm not sure if you noticed.
Oh, Councillor Chuck-and-Dawson. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Sorry, I've only just put it up. I've just wondered why there were so many items on this agenda when some of the later months are not as heavily packed. Unless I'm mistaken. So I just wondered why that was.
So if I can just inform the committee, there are 2 reports on this agenda, which is time sensitive, in the annual governance statement and the internal audit outturn report. The internal audit outturn report opinion informs the annual governance statement, and therefore they need to go together to a committee, and obviously they need to go in sufficient time to allow the draft annual governance statement, which is presented before you later in this meeting, to be included in the draft financial statements, which are being prepared by our financial services team for submission to external audit in order to meet the external audit process. So we do have certain time scales and deadlines which we do have to meet. So I hope that explains that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And apologies, Mark Jones, Audit Wales. I didn't see your hand up before anyone else. I am sorry.
Well, that's fine, Chair, thanks. Just one suggested addition to the July meeting, and that's the Audit of Accounts Addendum Report 24-25 accounts, that is. So I think Nicola will recognise that paper. There's a draft at the moment that's going through clearance. So the intention is for that to come to the July meeting.
Thank you. Saw Viv Pearson's hand up earlier. Do you want to say something, Viv?
Yes, Chair. It's a bit of a question, really, in terms of the cybersecurity report that we will receive. Will that be an exempt item?
Yeah, Deb.
My understanding is that it will need to go through the public interest test process with the Public Director of Legal Services, but that is the intention because of the sensitive nature of the matters that are going to be presented. I don't have the detail of the report, and the officers are not here to give you any further detail, I'm afraid.
Thanks very much for that, Deb. That's really handy.
Thank you. Agenda item 7. Oh, sorry. Right. We need to approve the board work programme. Apologies. Someone move and second?
Move, Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, great. That's all approved. I think that the time I've been doing this that I wouldn't get mixed up and confused, but it still happens. Do apologise. Okay, item 7. Audit Wales Annual Audit Summary 2025 and the Audit Plan for 2026. And back to Mark Jones, Audit Wales.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks. Yeah, I'll cover the annual audit summary first. That document is a summary document, as it says. So the key items that are in that paper have come to this committee individually. So the performance audit work, for example, and so forth. And it covers the accounts as well, which is a brief. It's kind of summarising what you would have considered as a committee in March, at the end of March, in terms of the accounts audit. By the way, I should have said at the start that Sarah Jane is an apologies today as well, and Matt as well, because they're both on leave today. So it's just me today and not them. So the one area in the annual audit summary where things have moved on slightly is the reference to grants, where we said the council has 6 grants and there were two that were ongoing. So in terms of a verbal update on those, the 5th grant, that's the Gwent Frailty grant, which the council leads on with 5 other authorities, but the council is the lead authority. That grant is certified with an unqualified, that's a positive opinion. So that one's been done. And we're on the brink of signing the 6th one, which is the housing benefit grant. So we're on the point of signing that. There's been a quick, the Department for Work and Pensions looks at audit reports across the UK, and they've got a bit of a backlog doing that, but they've raised a point or two that we're considering in terms of closing any of those points off before we certify that housing benefit grant for 24-25. But the audit is complete, other than that caveat, in terms of it's fully reviewed and about to go. those audits, the housing benefit audits, do tend to get, you know, some qualification because they're very thorough audits. So there are some points being raised, but the points I wouldn't personally call them significant. They are things that can come up on housing benefit, and we are asked to audit down to very low values of money. And when I say we're required to, that's by the Department for Work and Pensions. So we have thresholds of things like £50 and things like that. So very, very, very low levels where if in terms of the threshold. So that's all I was planning to say on the annual audit summary, and it's largely a summary document other than the kind of verbal update I gave you on the grants work.
Okay, thank you again, Mark. Does anybody have any queries or comments on that? Thank you. Mark, were you going to say anything about the audit plan then?
Yeah, I was just waiting to see if there are any questions. But in terms of the audit plan, I'll take it largely as read, but I will make some points for a few minutes before any questions. So the plan is the 2026 audit plan, as you would have read, financial audit and performance audit. It doesn't include the Blackwood Arts Centre, as for last year. The Blackwood Arts Centre will be subject to a separate audit plan. So just for members to be aware of that. As in past years, the plan sets out risks and other areas of focus in terms of financial audit, and those are set out this year. We do say in that section of the plan that we are yet to do our audit planning because the 24-25 audit, was certified in April, and then we've been into health audits, the health annual accounts. The planning hasn't taken place there, so we do say in the plan that this is mainly based on the results that we've had to date on the previous audit and so forth, and any internal updates that we receive within Audit Wales in terms of some key areas. So they set out those areas. There's a section on the timetable for this year, and that's kind of at page 13 of the Audit Wales document. So not page 13 of your pack, but page 13 of the Audit Wales document. And this year the council has moved to what we call a tranche 1 audit, and that's the council having confirmed to us a month or two ago that they would be preparing and signed good quality accounts by 30th of June with all supporting working papers, and therefore it moves the council into the tranche 1, and there are some councils in Wales that remain tranche 2 for 25-26. So when you see that timetable at page 13, you will see reference to that 30th of September certification deadline. It was 31 October for the previous year, and for this year across Wales for local government, police, fire, parks, councils, the Welsh Government deadline is for certification 30th of September, a month earlier, subject to those conditions of receiving accounts by 30th of June. There is a caveat on page 13, a footnote that you'll see in the plan, and that's where the Auditor General, he's saying, I will endeavour, to meet that certification deadline. It's just noting the fact that we haven't done audit planning and some interim testing that normally we would have done in the first quarter of 2026. So that's us saying there we'll endeavour to make 30th of September, but there are some challenges there in terms of where we're starting from. But it's a big step forward, in my opinion, from kind of the previous year. So we certified 23-24 accounts in May. It was the middle of May. We certified the 24-25 accounts in kind of early April. I think it was we certified on the 8th of April. And this year we're looking for a much bigger step in terms of bringing that forward, and that's what's kind of coming across hopefully in page 13. The PA work is set out as well. If there are questions later on the performance audit work, I may not have all the answers, but I may be able to answer some of the questions on the performance audit work that's in the plan. But that's set out for you, and the work that's planned between, having spoken to Sarah Jane, that work, she expects to be completed by June 2027. So that's work going forward to June 2027, and that's set out in the plan as well for the kind of year ahead. The fee is set out then on page 21. I must admit that I've noted some kind of arithmetic errors in that, so that's clearly sits with us. But I'll just quickly clarify for you, and that's where it says for the fee, where it says let me just get this right. Where it says 456,263, that should be 458,000, and where it says 400, it should say 447,183, not 438,533. So there are some errors in the total, and it's where it says total fee. So I'm talking about the total fee now. The individual fees are correct, but where it says total fee, those are, I will send a correction on Monday and share it with Leanne and other officers as relevant. But in terms of the figures that I will be sending on Monday, the fee estimate this year is going up across performance audit work, financial audit work, and the grants is going up by 0.02%. So, you know, and under 1%, just above 0%, and that financially is going up by £9,080. So we've, for Caerphilly, in terms of a fee estimate, we've almost kind of held it. Well, it's the same. It's the same kind of costs overall, other than that 0.02%. And that's what's coming across here. So we haven't fee rates you would have read. There's a linked fee scheme as well within the plan that you may have looked into and read. There's a 5.3% increase for this year across fee rates, but we're holding the fee for Brecon, as I say. There is a reference in the plan to an additional cost of the accounts, which is referenced in there, and that is an additional cost where we've gone beyond the fee estimate, and that's £68,000, and that's in that part of the audit plan. So that's flagged there as well, and that's going back to the issues that we were considering in March when we were going through the ISA 260, and as minuted in today's meeting of that meeting. There were extra work there that did accumulate extra fees beyond the fee estimate originally. The other thing, finally, that you may have noticed in the fee that we retain in the fee estimate next year at the 275 figure. So that's something that we're retaining. Our aim on that fee estimate, if this year's audit goes well, is to bring that lower. And if you look at the fee scheme that's linked in for Caerphilly and for its gross expenditure for the year, if things are going really well and good quality and good engagement, that fee estimate, if you look at that fee scheme, should be around about the 240,000 mark. So it's currently 275. And if all goes well and we have a really positive kind of 25-26 audit, that fee estimate will reduce down to around £240,000, and you'll recognise that figure, as I say, in the fee scheme, the published fee scheme, that is. I think I'll stop there because that's probably enough in terms of updating on specific points, but I'll take any questions, Chair.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you again for that, Mark, and it is good to know that we are ahead of schedule in terms of previous years of when audits are going to take place and accounts are going to be approved and all of that sort of thing. But let's hope that when you come back to us next year, you get your fee figures correct, so you don't have to add on to them there. Councillor Chacken-Dawson, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just a quick question. Who decides the planned audit? Because I've noticed highways and asset management, which is a good items to audit, but who decided those?
ultimately it's Audit Wales and the Auditor General for Wales. But what does happen, Sarah Jane and Matt and Gareth Lucy, the engagement director, they engage quite extensively with officers, especially the exec directors, and we certainly seek views and opinions in terms of assessing where our kind of input would be most valuable. Sometimes, of course, the auditors can have a strong opinion and say we think this area really needs a review, irrespective of what officers think. But generally, I'm not particularly involved myself in this area, but generally, as I understand it, the engagement between officers and auditors is kind of very collegiate and positive, and it's an agreed programme of work. So yeah, that's the essence of the process in terms of arriving on the areas to be looked at.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Viv Pearson.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Mark, because that was quite an interesting little round around the houses about that fee engagement piece. My question is, could you give us some examples of what you mean by good or improved engagement by the officers within the council, which would subsequently lead to the reduction in the fee charge?
Yes, thanks. I'd say with Audit Wales and Caerphilly Council, the engagement is very positive, and it's very professional engagement, very positive engagement, and that in that sense, I think is at a very high level. And that's not just my opinion; it's opinion within Audit Wales. But the thing that will bring that fee estimate down and the fee in general is just the quality of what's provided for the audit, the quality of the accounts and the underlying working papers, and then the third thing is the responsiveness and the engagement. And the responsiveness and the engagement with Caerphilly officers tends to be very good, but it's just getting away from the corrections that go through the accounts and so forth, and some of the points in terms of the nature of the working papers, which we've experienced probably for the last few years. You know, that's not unique to what we've just had in 24-25. It's been over the last 3 years, maybe 4 years. So that's where the that's where it's key, and I think the terminology in the plan, maybe I'm getting my words slightly wrong, but where we just above where we talk about the fee, there's a little box, and it says, having good quality working papers and timely engagement and so forth is critical to this fee estimate being met. I think words of that nature anyway. I haven't got it on screen at the moment, but that's kind of the message in there in the box that sits above the fee. But I wouldn't call it any kind of concerns anywhere near concerns in terms of engagement and how officers and the audit team work together.
Thanks, Mark. That's very interesting that you say about the quality of the working papers, because that's something that we've picked up as a committee. But that's brilliant. Thank you very much for your response.
Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Leanne, Sarah and Nicola, because you need a big pat on the back for providing such quality papers to Audit Wales. Is there anything else you needed to say on that, Mark?
Not on that question. It's whether there's other questions that you...
I don't think I've got any else now, so that's fine. So we're just asked to note what you've commented on now this afternoon in those reports there in front of us. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Under item 8, which is the Internal Audit Annual Plan 2026-27. And we've been asked to to receive and review and improve the internal audit annual plan as set out Appendix 1 in the bundle of papers that we've got here. And Deb Grono. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll take the main body of the report as read, but I'll just pull out some salient points. So the report detailing the annual planning process is attached to this report as an appendix. This details the process of how the plan's been developed and in consultation with various parts of the authority, stakeholders, leadership, etc. That has led to the development of the attached plan, was attached as an appendix. Audits have been planned across service areas, high-risk areas, and also linked to a number of cabinet objectives, and we do also link to high-level risk performance governance principles. You will also note that significant resource has been allocated into a contingency and not allocated to audits at this stage. This is because this year some additional audit work was raised as a result of transformation work, which resulted in other work being delayed, deferred or removed from the plan. So the decision was made to, instead of allocate that work and then remove it from the plan, to increase the amount of contingency. And then this will be reported to leadership on a regular basis. And obviously, as perhaps risk areas become raised, then obviously leadership can consider how that contingency can be allocated across the rest of the year. So I don't know if there are any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Joe.
Yeah, I've quite a few questions, but first of all, a compliment, Deborah, for the much improved format of the plan. This is much better than in previous years, and it's easy to read. So thank you for your work in producing that. It's really miles better than we've had before. I do have a number of, well, they are questions. Lots of comments really on what I've observed in the appendix. I wanted to ask you though about the audit universe risk rating, and whilst you have a paragraph in your covering report on that on risk, that isn't. I don't quite follow entirely how then that is reflected in the audit. Perhaps you could answer that first. Then the audit universe risk rating column. How is that?
So all our audits are run through our commuter system, which are currently Pentana IDGen, and that maintains an audit universe, which is basically every area of activity, service area, operational, location, etc., which might expect some audit coverage at some point. Then also builds in a cycle of how many times of reviews, and then we do an audit risk assessment which evaluates the inherent risk of that audit area, which is slightly different to the corporate risk register, the audit risk, inherent risk, and then internal controls that we're aware of operate over that system, service area, etc., to leave any the remaining residual risk of that service area, which then we would map across to the audit plan. So that's what I mean by the audit universe risk. Obviously, perhaps if I can take that comment forward for the next time we report on this, and explanation will be included in the report for you. So explain that and perhaps give you that clarity.
Okay, I think what I was getting at really, what I was looking for really was that is reflective of yours and senior management's views, and it's not just a machine produced.
No, it's it's judgmental. It's subject to review, not particularly regularly, but we keep an eye on anything, for example, that we know that might impact on that. So if we have a big change of accounting system, payroll, HR, council tax, etc., or big change in staffing, anything like that, then that might result in a revaluation of that, because obviously that would change the risk profile of that particular system or location. I mean, we do drill that down to quite a granular level as well. So when we're looking at, for example, some establishments, if there's been a change of leadership there, or previous audits that suggest there's weaknesses control, or other concerns that have been transmitted to us by service managers or senior managers or directors within that service area, then that will affect that as well. Okay. So that's brought into how the cycle of the selection of those audits is determined.
Thanks very much. Okay. Right. A comment, an observation is that there's quite a lot of uncertainty in the plan. You know, as regards timings, for example, there's a number, page 84, 85, and 87, I think, of examples there where in the columns for timing, proposed timing, there's, you know, uncertainty. There's it will depend sometimes on the scope, and there are even some where there is no timings at all. I think that's on page 87. I think, yeah, 87. There's a number of audits there, and there's nothing in the timing column. So, just for me to summarise, what I'm saying here is there's still a lot of unknowns, if you like, in this plan in terms of allocations of resource and days. There are also some uncertainties in the previous comment column, I think it is, yes, where, you know, it'll say things like it'll depend on scope and sample sizes, and I think you're referring to the timing there. But in any case, my point is, with a lot of this, you know, uncertainty, which I'm not saying, you know, I accept it, and I accept your point about the plan needs to remain flexible. I'm sure it's very difficult to sort of specify exactly how many days are going to be allocated. There is a lot of uncertainty here, and it results then in there not being allocations of days, particularly in quarters 2, 3, and 4. Quarter 1, there's a lot.
That's deliberate.
Sorry?
That's deliberate because,
yes.
You know, it's no point me planning and saying, okay, we're going to start an audit on the 1st of June if the audit that's audits are being completed at the moment overrun. There are issues that are identified that require some further investigation, discussions, or may lead to other lines of inquiry. But you know, yes, that is the way, you know, we work. We don't say we're definitely going to start on this date. But if the audit is captured in here, with the intention is that, you know, when it's appropriate, we will start that. It means there's a timing issues that need to be taken into account as well. For example, demands on other related service areas. So any audits that we might have that touch on corporate finance, we need to make sure that workload there in terms of completion of year end and any demands there are completed first before we ask for time to be committed to an audit. So yes, you know, I will accept that there is uncertainty, but that's somewhat, you know, the nature of the beast to some extent. And as long as we are monitoring it, you know, I'm not going to say to someone, oh, well, this audit's not due to start until the 1st of July, but you finished what you've done now, so, you know, what can we pick up and do? I mean, I had an email saying, oh, you know, can you do this audit? It wasn't in the plan. So, you know, just scramble around and say, well, have we got staff available? So we've slotted that in.
Okay, thank you for that. I understand all that and I accept all that. What I was going to suggest, though, Chair, is in view of that, because we're here going to approve this plan, but the allocation, it isn't fully allocated at all. You know, it's mapped out as in terms of what audits you intend to do, but the allocation isn't complete. What I was going to ask was, would you be able to bring a revised plan or an updated plan back to us, say, halfway through the year, October, where you are then, you know, more certain about the allocation for the second half of the year?
I think that the progress on plan report that comes to the committee would probably inform that better for you, because that would report audits that have been started and are ongoing. So I think that would give you that information that you are asking for.
Well, it's just that this is a very this is a summary position. You know, you can see here on 4 pages or whatever the plan is and the allocation. And I was just thinking that this could be used, this same format, bring this back to us in an updated fashion, so that we can see then by the middle of this year what the plan for the remainder of the year is. Because other than that, you see, if we're going to approve this, we kind of need to be able to approve the allocation as much as the actual audits that are going to take place. And so I do think it's quite important that we have the updated position on that, because we haven't got the full year position on it at the moment. So that's what I was going to ask for. My second point in relation to this actually is, and you mentioned it earlier, the contingency.
Yes.
That contingency figure it's a large figure.
Yes, about 300.
You know, it's something like
300 days, is it? Something
like 30%.
Yes.
Of the total days. That is a lot.
Yes, and that's deliberate. That was a deliberate.
Yes, I'm sure all of this is deliberate. Yeah. I'm questioning, of course, why that figure is so high.
Because the feedback that was given to me at the 2 leadership meetings I attended, where the report was presented, was that initially the contingency figure was not high enough, and audits that were penciled in were perhaps considered for, we'll put them in the reserve list, but if something higher risk or something is out of transformation or another risk comes along, then we want to be able to draw on a contingency, and we want to make sure that there's enough contingency to be able to fulfil that. Now, you know, that's feedback from the executive leadership team, and the chief executive has fed into that. So that's what's been put in the plan, and that's what's going to be going back to leadership.
But then, are you not risking then not having sufficient coverage over the rest of the areas that really do need to be covered? You know, I know you have to balance that, but I mean, for example, on your last page, I think it's on your last page, page 87, is it? You've listed there a number of areas that have come out of the risk discussions, but you're not actually going to cover them. Yeah? Or you have no plan to cover them.
At this point in time, they were identified. Yes. As part of this process, I went to the corporate risk register. Joan was kind enough to provide me with that information, and had a look at those. I had a look at what we were aware of, other cycles that I said our system built in, and I did identify what looked like areas that could potentially benefit from audit coverage. But again, the feedback that was given is, you know, we accept that, but we think there might be coverage elsewhere, or we're having other inspectors or assurance reviews, etc., going on in those areas, and we don't think that what you're doing is going to add any value. Or, you know, yes, put them in the reserve list, and we'll see. And, you know, we may draw on them, or we may be identifying other different areas that we consider to be more demanding of your time. So
just to clarify, this is what you call your reserve list, is it? This on page 88.
Yes, they were there. They're the areas that were identified as potentially looking, you know, either coming up on my audit cycle, or on the corporate risk register, or other information that we'd had, you know, areas that hadn't had an audit for a while, not necessarily high risk, you know, they just might be, you know, through my cycle.
There are actually 2 that are high risk.
Yeah, so But that's the feedback that I was given. Obviously, this is a dynamic document. It was developed it to be more dynamic than the fixed plan that we previously worked on. Obviously, we do need some structure because we can't have the staff just sitting around doing nothing, just waiting for something to pop up. So, we do need to have a plan, but we also need to be responsive to the demands of the organisation. And that is the process that's being developed and agreed by leadership.
Accept all of that then, Deborah. Thank you very much for all of that explanation. What I do think, though, I'll come back to my suggestion, Chair, is that if everyone else agrees and we approve this today, we do need to see an updated version, please, because it's not, as I've said, it's not complete. Understandably so. It's not a complete allocation of the days. There's a very large contingency here. That may change. You may not need that amount at all by the time you come to look at it again in October. So I do think that we need to see this, an updated version of this, back with us in October for our, it wouldn't be for our approval at that point. It would be to inform us and to give us the additional information regarding the rest of the year as regards internal audit planning. That's all. Would that be possible?
Well, I can see where you're coming from, Joe, and I see what you've answered there, Deb. I mean, earlier on you spoke about something where it does come to the committee where it would take into account because we are further along the timeline, if you like, for audit. I mean, I think I am concerned about further reports coming to the committee when we're already constrained with the amount of work that we do, and we've already added on a number of meetings to try and cope with that. I think I'm concerned that it's asking the team to do additional work that may not necessarily need to be done.
I think it could be included in the policy plan, because once an audit is created in my system, it's there, it's created, and then it goes through different stages. So it's been created, then it's started, then it's completed, but the draft report's not issued, then the draft report. So that can be identified. So you can see, and you do see, where audits have been created, there's been no progress made on them, or they've just been created and they're due to start at a future date, and then they have started and the progress is being made. So that information is captured and is reported to you already, I would say. But I'm happy if the committee wants some further information. I don't want to if you think that's going to help you.
I'm sorry, Joe, but I can't help thinking that this is undermining Deb Grono's position as the internal audit manager. That if we don't approve this here now, we're questioning.
No, I don't mean we don't. I did say, Chair, we can approve this, but I think what we need to be doing is approve it, but recognise that it isn't a full allocation for the year, and we are happy to have an update halfway through the year for clarity regarding the remainder of the year. That's all. I mean, this isn't abnormal either in other authorities, and we accept, I'm sure everybody accepts, you do have to be flexible, you do have to allow for changes to your plan, and of course that happened last year. So I'm not against that at all, but this is an annual plan, but it isn't complete, if you see what I mean. So I think we can, I'd be happy to approve this because it contains all the intended audits. but there is scope here for more audits to be included, or indeed there's a possibility that additional work will come up.
Yes, I mean,
unplanned.
Yes, we have one at the moment.
Yes.
So the planned scope of the work, we are not going to be able to achieve what we thought we were going to achieve. So we might be almost certainly going to be, with the input from the director, is considering a change of scope in order to deliver something which is more meaningful for them. Well, obviously, there has been time already spent on that audit, historically up until today, where we're not going to get that time back. So, where that happens, it's not going to happen on everyone, I hope. But, then there does need to be, an element in our contingency to allow us for that, rather than fill the plan and then go, oh, well, I haven't done this audit, and this audit. At the end, I mean, it's kind of, I'm in a bit of a cleft stick here, in order to, present to yourselves and also deliver an effective audit service to the authority as a whole and meet the requirements of, the stakeholders, members and leadership.
Just a final point, you could even move to 6 monthly internal audit plans. It doesn't have to be annual, actually. We are in this particular,
yes, that is quite
now. And maybe we should be thinking about that for the future.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to find a solution.
Yes, that is quite popular in amongst colleagues, not fixing yourself to an annual plan, because some of the dates are arbitrary, for example.
Okay, let's...
Could I interject?
Yes.
Just a suggestion to in the plan, could you not prioritise and state which is the highest priority, which audit is highest priority, and give them a rating of then that the ones most likely to be completed and the ones least likely to completed because they've got a rating? It's just an idea.
It's a bit more complicated than that because we're balancing time and resources as well. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
And Nicola's been patient.
Yes. I just wanted to add, Joe pointed out that there was 2 items in that list that are too high risk. I just wanted to say, given that the nature of those 2 items, there's a lot of work going on in the organisation elsewhere that are addressing those issues, hence why perhaps that time has gone into contingency for that reason. So there's other factors like that to consider as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Viv Pearson.
Oh, sorry. I did have a question before.
Oh.
I had my hand up for ages.
Yes.
No, that was just another. Is that all right?
First, okay. Viv, were you going to ask something about what we're talking about at the moment?
Well, sort of, I suppose, but if you let Marina go first, that might be better.
Okay, thank you. So,
yeah. I was going to ask about the plan because it talks about the estimates of absences, and I just wanted reassurance. Is this done on a historical average? Because it said there was 35, there's going to be 35. So obviously you're predicting something that you don't know, but I'm just trying to work out how you calculate this. Is this done on a historical average of the sick days?
That's what it's based on. Traditionally, and I'm not jinxing myself now, touch lots of wood. As a service area, we don't have a lot of sickness.
Yeah.
So our sickness is low. But obviously, I can't predict that, but it is a best estimate.
Yeah, and it's held up in previous years, that estimate.
Yes, that it is very low. We have some of the staff have claimed some other sort of leave of absence type absences. For example, if they're a school governor, they're allowed to spend a number of days to cover those duties. But yes, in terms of long-term sickness absence, that without hanging myself, now, I would say that historically there are no causes for concern or trends that I think need to be built into this that would make this forecast risky to achieve.
Okay. I think that was it, because I think this question's already been debated. I was asking, and you've already stated that how audits are decided. They were decided by what's most needed, so that's already been answered. Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay. Just before I bring Viv in, can we just knock this on the head? Is it going to cause you a huge amount of work to update us halfway through the year as to where we're at with the plan?
Probably not, as I say, because I capture the data anyway. It's just, I know comments have been made about the number of reports coming to the committee. If it's something that the committee wants, then I might be able to bring this data into another report which you'll get in anyway, rather than provide you with another additional report. Yeah. So I think that is something to give us a bit of thought to. Yeah. And if it's not exactly what you want, then we can have some tinkering and tweak it around a bit. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Right. If the committee is okay with that answer, then I'm content with that. Viv.
Thank you, Chair. It's a strange question from me, Deb, and I apologise for this, okay? But it is around the role, your independent role, I suppose, as the head of internal audit. And I was very interested in the conversation you've had with Joe in terms of, how you negotiate with leadership some changes to the plan. And, I totally get that. Can you explain how that process works and what logs of those decisions and the rationale for those decisions do you keep?
So there are obviously the minutes of the leadership meetings, which are formal, chief executive and his personal assistant, or anyway, minutes are kept of that. And also there might be email trails. For example, this is a final iteration of this document. There were several versions which went around in draft to the leadership before we even had the first meeting. And, it was, please can you add this? The first thing was, what would you like on the plan? Please add this, please add this, please add this. And then it was discussed, actually, we have this instead. Or, this is having a lot of coverage elsewhere, so we don't need that. Then the input was, well, we need a little bit more contingency, so what could come off? So, there's email trails, there's minutes of formal meetings of leadership. There's, the various iterations of this document that have gone to leadership and come back. Discussions with myself and Leanne. So, yes, it's all there. There is all a trail to cover that off.
Thanks very much, Deb. So do you upload that onto your system so that you've got one version of the truth? Because obviously email is not a record in itself unless you make it and declare it a record. I'm just asking the question to make sure that in terms of your role, your independent view has been given, and then we as a committee understand where those pressures are within the business that cause you to change that plan. So it's about having that one version of the truth in one place so that if you were ever challenged or questioned on your independence, not by this committee, I have to say, but by others, that you could actually point out to, yes, this was a decision that was made, this was a decision made by an individual member, or this was a decision made by the chief executive himself, so that you've got that absolute trail of the version of the truth in front of you.
So I don't get a copy of the leadership minutes, but I'm sure they're available should they be needed. And obviously there's lots more items in each leadership meeting than just mine, but they can be made available to me. Emails, yes, I can. I don't save them in a folder or file, but I could do that. That's not a problem. And I keep the iterations of this document. So I've got that. This is mine. So nobody else has this. This is mine.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're asked to approve this plan with ISO that we've talked about. No one else has got any questions there, just double checking. Okay, so someone to move and second.
Move, Chair. Second, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, great. That's approved. And then agenda item 9, annual internal audit report 2025-26. We've been asked to note the content of this report and the internal audit manager's annual opinion for the 2025-26 financial year in order for the committee to gain the required assurance to fulfil our role. Deb.
Thank you. So this is the outturn report of the activity that has been undertaken for the last year. As explained earlier in respect of questioning, this report is required now so that the opinion in paragraph 2.3 is fed then into the annual governance statement. So that opinion then states that the council systems and control processes are effective. The remainder of the report will detail the information that is gained to come to that opinion, and that involves some tables in the appendices involving providing details of audits that have been completed and their opinions, some information on outstanding recommendations, and a brief review of the detail of the work that we've undertaken in the year. So I don't know if you need me to go into any more detail here or welcome questions and stuff.
Chair, I have a few questions. Please, Deborah, thank you for your report. I was going to ask you, and if you haven't got it to hand or if I've missed it, please, you know, it doesn't have to be right now. I just wondered how the performance on, you know, in terms of the opinions compared with the previous year, you know, the percentages that you've put in there in terms of the page view now that I'm talking about.
5.6.
One of the colours in it.
Yeah,
one of the colours. 5.16. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Do you have that for last year?
No, we didn't. That evolved out of some discussion with some of the leadership in order to make this more transparent for them and for yourselves. What I would say is that one audit does not equal every other audit. So if we do it on plain numbers, it may not be very informative, but obviously now we've captured that, we can certainly use it going forward. What I have reported on in the report, which I think might be a little bit more informative, is the trending on risk rating of recommendations, because the number of recommendations and the risk rating actually informs the opinion. And I've got some, I think it's a pie chart. Just a table, sorry, shows that overall the number of high-risk recommendations, medium extension, are broadly within the same trends. So that doesn't suggest that we've got any serious issues with, you know, if we had a big spike in the number of high-risk recommendations, you could have one audit with a large number of recommendations, so that would only be one within the table of opinions. But this would give you more information in terms of the number of opinions that are, number of recommendations that are being generated and the risk ratings of those individually.
The other area that I wanted to just mention, just on that opinions and that coloured table there, did you say that the majority of I think your terminology was most of the audits are adequate. 62%, I think, is what's the green, if you like. That's what you're referring to. And we do need to note, of course, that 24% are actually amber, which is again inadequate, in need of improvement. And of course, the worst opinion there's actually 8% of the work undertaken, the audits undertaken, have ended up there. I wanted to comment as well, please, and just ask you for your view about the recommendations table on page 96. With 3 years there of recommendations, that are outstanding. Can something be done about those 2 years, do you think? Because, I mean, it's just belief that recommendations, especially high and medium recommendations, can still be outstanding after 3 years.
Okay, so there are, I would say, this has been a subject which is in dialogue with the various service areas, and one particular service area really in respect of the majority of these. And they are aware, and in all these cases there is mitigation in respect of the reasons why those recommendations haven't been implemented. However, in order to give you an update, I can advise the committee that obviously this was as at the 31st of March. It is a dynamic system. So, for example, tomorrow, obviously that's Saturday, Monday, I might get a notification to say, oh, actually we've done X, Y, Z. It's all in place, we've written a policy, or we've done what we needed to do, we've got to say, and that recommendation will be closed. So as at that, I think it was yesterday, the St James's Primary School recommendations closed. That was one in respect, I think it was some training they needed to get together to have the staff, and it was just something that there'd been some difficulty there. There's a new head now, and it was an operational issue which the service area is well aware of and was monitoring and inputted into via a team around the school supporting that. So, we do have to be mindful of dynamic, if there's other issues within that environment, also supporting the school in terms of other issues such as teaching and learning or other matters. And there is a little bit of a balancing act to be maintained in terms of getting recommendations like this prioritised and achieved. Risky Comprehensive School, we've had some advice that it was a whole school inventory, which is quite a big task, and we have been advised that that's nearly complete. So, progress is being made. It's not like we just, it sits there and we, just leave it. We do ask for progress updates, and I've been given an update, I think as at today, that that is virtually complete. So, the board figures, yes, might give you some cause of concern, but I'd like to provide you with some assurance that we are actually regularly monitoring it. I'm in dialogue with the various service areas, in particular education, and I'm going along to their DMT in June to provide them with an update on where we are with more current audits and causes of concern. So it is under monitoring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Councillor Chapman-Dawson.
You just explained one of my questions, but the second, I imagine that the outstanding number of audits are affected by the date administered, the amount administered, the amount of recommendations administered, and the resources of the school. Are these considered when a completion is expected?
Yes. I mean, it does vary. In some cases, we can be at the school for the period of the audit, which might only be 3 to 5 days, and by the time the auditors leave site, the recommendation's actually been implemented, if it's something that's easy to do or quick. But if it's something that's quite time-consuming, for example, a policy needs to be written, ratified, discussed with possibly union or staff, adopted by governing body, and they might only meet once a term, you know, we need to take those things into account. But, you know, we do try to be meaningful with the timescales that we adopt, and we don't say everything's got to be done by the end of the month. Each individual recommendation will have a different timescale depending on what it actually entails, the actions that are actually needed to put that into place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nigel, you've got your hand up.
Yes. You hear me now? Turn my mic on.
No, I couldn't hear you, sorry.
Turn it off. You're being picked up by the whole thing. Don't worry.
Right.
Yeah, just be. Deb's only over there. She can hear you.
There's a...
I'm sorry, Mr. Yates. I'm sorry. Just start again. I couldn't hear you properly.
There's an analysis on page 97.
97. Let me
A
find
little
it.
analysis.
Oh yes.
The reasons for the recommendations are sort of they're running on track for this year. The volume is quite considerably down.
But the 2,743 recommendations are the total number of recommendations we've produced from our system since it was implemented in 2019. So this year we've done, I think it's 147, 145 audits, and we generated 257 recommendations. Obviously some audits that are effective may have no recommendations at all if everything's, you know, everything's... So it can vary, it does vary. You know, I can't really give you much more information than that, but I thought it would be possibly meaningful for you to see the trend. So we look at all the total for, you know, ever since we've been capturing the data, which our computer system allows us to do, and then what has been generated this year. And obviously, you know, we could do comparatives then for next year, that, you know, or again look, it helps us just look for trends, because like I said, if you had a sharp uptick in the number of high-risk recommendations that weren't explained by you know, something I already knew about, then that would be something that would need to be a cause for concern, and obviously may be something that would impact on the overall opinion that we was generating.
So the nature of this is that it's not ideal to make an average. Each year is totally different.
Yeah, yes.
Average, but, you know, you can't use it to evaluate this year's performance.
Not really, because we don't repeat the same work year on year. You know, depends on, obviously we've just gone through the plan process. It does depend what's on the plan. Yeah, I mean, we've got 82 schools, so we do a cycle of schools. Comprehensives have a visit every 3 years, and primaries have a full audit every 5 years, and have a light touch audit every 2 years or every other year, depending on our little risk assessment. So if they were bad, very bad, you know, we might bring them forward a year. Or if they were green, and we get the feedback from education, they will say, oh, actually, can you bring this school forward because we've got some concerns. So, you know, we have that. So yes, I suppose if you looked at 10 years, we might be able to say yes, that, you know, there's some trends, but then, you know, 10 years, people leave, you get new systems. So, you know, it's all a bit too volatile, really.
Thank you, Deb. If no one else has got any comments, queries there, just been asked to note the report. So regard that as well and truly noted. Agenda item 10, the draft annual governance statement 2025-2026. And we as a committee are asked to receive, review and approve the draft annual governance statement. It's updated alignment with the SIPFA principles of good governance and current guidance. And Nicola, you're going to speak to us about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the draft annual governance statement for 25-26 for the committee's consideration and approval. It's an important document as it provides assurance to members, residents and our regulators that the Council has in place robust systems of governance, risk, management and internal control, supporting the delivery of our objectives and the stewardship of public resources. The draft annual governance statement has been updated and refreshed in line with current SIPFA guidance and is now explicitly structured around the 7 principles of good governance as set out in SIPFA Solace, delivering good governance in local government framework. The principles-based approach strengthens transparency, improves clarity for members and stakeholders, and enhances the robustness of the statement as a key source of governance assurance. Members will note that the overall conclusion is that governance arrangements were generally effective during 25-26 and remain fit for purpose, providing reasonable assurance that the Council is well governed and able to manage current and emergent risks. The statement is underpinned by a comprehensive review process drawn on a wide range of assurance sources, including internal audit, external audit, regulatory findings, performance and risk management arrangements, and directorate assurance statements. As with any organisation of this scale and complexity, the review has also identified areas where further improvement is required. These do not represent fundamental weaknesses, but rather opportunities to strengthen governance further, particularly in areas such as scrutiny effectiveness, risk management, financial resilience, and organisational capacity. A clear governance improvement action plan is included within the statement, setting out the actions to address these matters. Progress against these actions will be monitored through the Council's existing governance arrangements, including this committee. In summary, the AGS provides a balanced and evidence-based assessment of the Council's governance framework, recognising both strengths and areas for development, and demonstrates an ongoing commitment to transparency, accountability and continuous improvement. The committee is asked to approve the draft annual governance statement for 25-26.
Thank you, Nicola. And just to remind members, I mean, I've been part of the team that has been putting this together now. I think we've had 2-3 meetings. And it's an evolving document. It you know, it's not set in tablets of stone, and it is a draft at this stage because there could be things, well, there will be things that are added to it as time goes on. Does anyone have any questions to put to Nicola or anyone else that's... Jill.
Thank you. You've kind of touched on something there that I was going to question. Regards, because it is mentioned in here that there was actually a review of the governance of this statement by the group that you mentioned, the panel, and you're a member of that. So I was going to ask you actually to comment regarding that aspect, because of course we're endorsing this today. We need to be, I would say that we need to be clear and understand well, you know, how it has been developed, and where there are references to things, we need to understand those because we're endorsing, and once this goes to, is it Cabinet or Council?
Off by the leader and the chief exec, and it forms part of the financial statements.
It goes to full council. We need to, understand the statement well, I feel, and I want to make sure that I'm doing that. There were some references to things in here. I mean, the first part is kind of almost the easy part, because that outlines the principles that are that underpin the statement. I wanted to touch on a couple of things, though, that are of particular interest after those earlier sections. For example, the 4.6. Let me get this right. 4.610. It's in the internal audit. In the internal audit section. In any case, it's 4.610. We're talking there about internal control and strong public financial management. And 4.610 refers to staff taking counter-fraud qualifications. Now, we know that, or at least we were told some time ago now possibly, that your fraud, in the internal audit team, the fraud officer was actually leaving, or maybe even had left. So I wanted to just ask about that, because, is that not relevant to this particular point? Capacity and awareness enhanced through staff undertaking CIPFA-accredited counter-fraud qualifications. Are there staff still with us who have taken those qualifications?
So the member of staff that did the high-level qualification, she left in October, so was present within the period to which this scrimmage period, which is governance statement, applies. We have another member of staff who did the counter-fraud technician qualification. She remains in post. The service auditor has actually got counter-fraud experience, but no formal qualifications, but has taken on, she's worked in that in a previous role. So she's now taken on the fraud risk assessment work and is adopting the new format fraud risk register risk assessment, which is going to be coming to you. And I'm also in discussion with Leanne. CIPFA is now re-advertising. The courses that they provide are under quite a bit of demand, so they're now re-advertising those, and we're taking expression of interest from staff to put something through a qualification similar, so to get the resource. The other thing I'd like to add is, I don't know whether it's mentioned here, but we did a piece of work jointly with Trade and Standard, because they do some work on fraud and they have some capacity to do check-in and financial investigations, and we did a piece of work with them, and they identified some facts about a person that was picked up in a different piece of work, which has actually resulted in investigation and a financial outcome for the authority. So I think that, yes, it's true that the member staff left, and you have the right to raise that, but I think that we have got capacity and resource and plans to backfill that resource effectively within the authority. I don't think there's a cause for concern there.
Nicola wanted to come in.
I just covered what I was going to say as well with the trading standards. You've got that specialism on that side of it as well, so it's not just focused in internal audit.
Okay, let me stop you there. Thank you for that. That's reassuring me. But it's not in this document. This document is going to be published, right? And it has to be, we're endorsing it for the council to approve it and get it out there. So we have to be, careful about what's written in here and what's not in here. I mean, you're telling us this, but that's not going to go public, is it? So how do we make sure then that there is the assurance that you're giving us embedded in this document?
There are individuals with counter-fraud qualification at different levels. So
this document does form part of the published accounts, so it will be publicly available.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you tell me then, is there more in this document along the lines that you two ladies have just said?
I don't know whether the members would like to consider this, but obviously this is a draft. It is almost certainly, if prior years are anything to go by, it will be amended between today and when the final accounts are signed off, potentially informed by future events that we don't yet know, and crystallisation of other things which we're aware of but don't have determination of the outcome at this point. So it can be, your comments can come back, it can be recorded, and Section 151 can review what you're saying and consider whether and how your observations may be.
It's not my observations, it's the additional information that you're giving us, I think needs to be better, perhaps in here, that's all I'm saying. Because it's assurance at the end of the day,
Yes.
It is, as Deb mentioned, a draft document that until those accounts are signed off by Audit Wales as of the 30th of September or whenever they're going to sign them off, it's a document that's reviewed by them, but it will have to take any change up until that date. So it's a live evolving document, and anything that changes within the organisation or anything like that, it needs to take account of all those.
And edits can be made. So may I suggest that this is minuted, and this is Section 151 officers, unfortunately absent today, but we can pass those comments on and can be updated.
That's just on that one point.
Submitted to Audit Wales by what date is that? So there are 6 weeks. We've got
a couple of other
Mark.
points.
I think Mark would like.
Yeah, I know. I can see, but I just wanted to say, Joe, that you see that statement there, 4.6.1, where asking us, it's saying that there is assurance that.
Yes, but it's not inclusive of what Deborah just told us. It's very short. It says, there are staff who have had the counter fraud qualifications, but it could be much more. It could be much fuller, is what I'm saying. And
well, there's a
balance to endorse the document.
There's a balance to be achieved with this document, and SIPFA guidelines and best practice recommend that a document such as this is as concise as it can be, direct as it can be. It is very, very wordy at the moment. I mean, I would love to make it more user friendly, but Deb's taken on board what you've said.
Can I move on? Thank you.
Again, I've been part of this process, and I just want to make everyone clear that I'm quite content with the way that this document has been put together. Thank you.
Sure, yes. I'll move on now, if I may, to the section on internal audit. 5.8.3. This is something that needs explaining, please, because I hear about the Audit Wales internal audit review findings and recommendations. I'll very quickly then go on to talk about an existing improvement programme. Well, this is the first time I've heard of this. The committee hasn't been told anything about an improvement programme in internal audit, and not to mention an existing improvement programme. So again, this is coming somewhat left field, if you like. And the second point here is that we have not seen the Audit Wales internal audit review. So we're being asked again to endorse this document without really seeing the full picture. And with definitely for me, and I would think other members of the committee as well, but has anyone else heard about the draft, the existing improvement programme, internal audit? I certainly haven't, and we are the audit committee. Would we be knowledgeable about this?
I believe that refers to the actions that came out of the workshop in December. I believe that's what Leanne is referring to in this document. However, we'd need to clarify that with her, but I believe that's what she's referring to. And second of all, the Audit Wales review has been issued in draft. The comments are not being received, and it's not been published, and therefore is not to be discussed at this committee.
We're the audit committee, and we're being asked to endorse this document. You know, we don't know what we're talking about here. This puts us in a difficult position. So, and the other point is, council might well assume that we have seen that review, and they need to be made aware that we haven't as of today. So, you know, whatever the reasons are for us not having seen it, put it in a statement like this, and then we're asked to endorse this. I mean, we don't really know what we're talking about, do we? And that's a very uncomfortable and not a good position to be in for us as a committee.
Chair, can I?
Yes, thank you.
If I could interject, Chair. Obviously that draft review was issued in April 2026, so this does cover the period of the annual governance statement. However, as the report rightly says, it has not yet been through clearance stages yet. It is not yet published on the Audit Wales website. It will come forward to you, I would assume, as a committee with responsibility for that area. That report will be presented by Audit Wales with an action plan from the council. So at the point at which this AGS is written is just letting people know that there has been an Audit Wales review implemented, and it will come through to you, but it's not yet finalised. So obviously officers cannot discuss it yet and cannot answer questions on it.
I mean, that was my interpretation of it. You know, I'm sorry if that disagrees with your take on it, Joe.
I'm not disputing, or I'm not even demanding or asking to see that review today, except that it takes time for these things to be dealt with. It will come to us, hopefully, eventually, for our views.
I think it will come to us.
It will come to us.
Can I just object to using words like hopefully and eventually? It will come to you.
It will come to us, yes. That's fine. But this statement here would lead the reader to believe that, you know, we're endorsing this without having seen that review. We don't know what's in that review. But, you know,
could we recommend it with a note that we haven't seen it?
Yes, I was going to come on to that. Thank you, Councillor. I was going to suggest, you know, that there is there's an added line in here to say, or even in brackets just, for now, if you want, to say that, you know, the particular review hasn't actually been to Audit Committee yet. I think that's quite important. So if that could be added, that would help.
It states clearly in the first line of paragraph 5.8.3, it's considering the draft Audit Wales findings and proposed recommendations. There's nothing been agreed and the report's not been published. I really, you know, what additional information is needed? We've already discussed that this statement is a draft. It is subject to edits, reviews, updates as information becomes available and situations crystallise.
So do you think then that by the time this goes to Council, we will have seen the Audit Wales review, perhaps?
Almost certainly. My understanding of the proposed timeline for this is that it will. I mean, I'm not actually an owner of that timeline, my understanding of the process is that it will. I mean, possibly Kath could provide a bit more guidance on the time it takes for these
I'm not
processes.
sure where it is at the moment, and as I understand it, it's gone through management clearance, hasn't yet been published in its final report format. Thereafter, the Council will accept the recommendations or proposals within that report, and thereafter will be developing its action plan. The report will be presented to you by Audit Wales, and hopefully by that time it'll be with the Council's action plan as well. So obviously it's probably a couple of weeks off yet, but as it stands, the statements within the AGS, the draft AGS, are as current.
Mark, from Audit Wales, were you going to say something about this?
Thanks, Chair. I mean, I put my hand up at the start of this, after Joe, at the start. So a lot of it's been covered by the conversation since. Initially, I was just going to draw attention that this is part of the audit review of the accounts, as has since been said. So when we get the accounts by 30th of June, those accounts include the annual governance statement, or should include the annual governance statement. And then the annual governance statement is part of the audit. The Auditor General reviews it in terms of complying with the guidance and asks the SIP for guidance. So in his audit certificate within the accounts in due course, he would be saying, you know, the annual governance statement complies with the guidance in place, words to that effect anyway. And also he's looking for things that may be inconsistent with our knowledge or reports. So in a simple way, if one of our reports said you know, there were some problems or whatever, maybe there was some negative audit findings, but the annual governance statement was maybe overly positive in that particular audit review or whatever, but you know, they'd be, well, you know, that this isn't consistent with our findings. We've never had a case of that, by the way, at the council. I'm talking hypothetically. So in terms of the process currently going on is totally a matter for the council, and it may vary across public bodies, probably inevitably. But in terms of the audit process, let's say you had a GA, let's say we've done the accounts audit now, and therefore the accounts, which includes the annual governance statement that we've reviewed, and let's say we say no comments on it, so it's good to go. The GAC consider first, and then you make your recommendation to council. So this year, I think you met on the I think it was the 30th of March when you met, and the annual governance statement would have been within those accounts, and then you proposed the council approve the accounts and the annual governance statement that sits inside it, and the council met on, I believe, the 7th of April. So in that position, there was a gap of about a week between the GAC and the council. That's the process that Audit Wales is involved in. But the process leading up to all that may change between public bodies. You know, it's how they wish to organise it. So I wouldn't particularly have a view on that, other than the end bit with it. We're very much, you know, we are part of the process.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah. Viv Pearson and then Mike Adams.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Nicola, for sort of taking us through their report. I've got a bit of a process question that I hope you can help me with, and it's about the Directorate Assurance Statements. Obviously, they're a fundamental part of being able to demonstrate at a directorate level what you've done, where your risks are, etc., and how that feeds into the statement. What I don't understand and I can't see at the moment is, what does that Directorate Assurance Statement look like, and what is the process of getting those Directorate Assurance Statements in to the central team who are obviously writing the AGS, and what is the process for looking at those and then reframing down into a more manageable narrative across the authority?
May I answer that, Chair? Thank you, Viv. That's a really interesting question, and I think it does help shed some light on the process. So thank you for the question, actually. So what happens is we've got a quite comprehensive questionnaire which covers all the areas of expected governance that we've picked up out of guidance that has already been produced. I review it in about January, have a look to make sure that are there any changes in there that I'm aware of. For example, has anything come out of transformation? I understand if there's any reviews, for example, as workforce review, work is going on in regards to sickness management, obviously issues with the Middle East, etc. So I add those. So that is then across those areas. It asks the individual directors to review that, state whether they think that they're compliant, whether there's any issues and any other comments or significant risks that they feel applying to their directorate service area that need to be escalated up to the overall governance statement. So I collate those then for each of the individual executive directors, summarise those in a format, picking out, highlighting any risks that are coming out on a consistent basis across several of the checklists that are coming into you, or anything that perhaps might be applicable to one service area. For example, there's judicial review in one particular service area that may or may not have an impact. So I highlight those, I then consolidate that, send that up to the executive director. Also, that's presented to the panel in one of the meetings where I go through this process, say these are the areas, these are the issues that the panel, in preparing the statement, may wish to consider in bringing in the risks. You know, is it a service area only one? Is it a high level risk that is going to affect the authority as a whole? So some discussion and evaluation takes place on that, and those then are, yes, we need to bring it into the governance statement, or no, we're aware of it. It might not be something that may not crystallise until next year, so we're putting it in the back burner, and you know, that needs to be considered next year. So the directors get that. I did for one director, I sent in the summaries that I'd got back, and he said, I'm not very happy with the responses. I don't think my directors have looked at this in enough depth. Can you give me another couple of days? I'm going to my director management team today, and I'm going to ask them to another look and give you a little bit more of a thorough response. So that happened, and yeah, and then obviously that was collated, and then it's submitted to the panel, and that is the process. You're on mute.
I always moan when everybody else does that, and I did it myself, sorry. Thanks, Deb, that was really, really helpful in terms of just trying to understand how that evidence is gathered and assessed, and the independent nature of obviously trying to pull all of that information together in a summary format is really interesting. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mike.
Thanks, Chair. Apologies for not coming in much earlier during this discussion, because I'd just like to say, when these accounts are presented to full council by the Cabinet Member for Finance, we will not present a draft report. It will be final report is accepted. And of course, we will have provided the assurance that this is the final, properly worked out, including everything that we want, including the points that Joe has reminded us of, that we need to be telling people what we might have known beforehand. And that will be before September by the seams of it. So I'm assured that Councillor Stenner will make sure that what is in the report she's presenting will include everything that we need to be telling people that we've approved ourselves as this Governance and Audit Committee. So thanks for reminding us that we need to say everything in there that we may be looking at and changing as a result of everyone else who looks at it. And thanks to Audit Wales for their input as well.
Thank you very much.
I have one final mundane observation. Actually, it's just a typo. It's on page 161. There's a column there for the improvement actions, or a table, and there's a little typo there on the third column. We're saying principal, and it should be principal, PLE, just to alert you to that. Is that okay, Nicola?
Okay, well, thank you all for that. Want to move and second?
Move, Chair.
Thank you.
A second.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. That's approved. Okay, agenda item 11, corporate risk register, as of March 2026, and recommended that we as the committee review the content of the corporate risk register and associated mitigating actions, satisfy itself that risks that are being identified are managed effectively. Joanna, apologies for looking at the wrong person.
This report provides the committee with the latest update to the corporate risk register as of March 2026. There are currently 16 corporate risks on the register, comprising of 5 high risks and 11 medium risks. Since the register was reported to this committee in October 2025, 5 risks have changed rating. 4 risks have been reduced from high to medium, and 1 risk has increased from medium to high. All other risk ratings remain unchanged, and new risks have been added to the register. This will be the final presentation of the corporate risk register in its current format, as a new template has now been developed. Work with officers is ongoing to transition the existing risks into a new template, which will be presented to this committee in July. Corporate risk register is presented to this committee to support their role in reviewing and challenging the management of the Council's key strategic risks. Members are invited to review the register to gain assurance that identified risks are being managed effectively.
Thank you, Joanna. As per usual, there's a number of questions. Joe, you wanted to?
Someone else want to go first, Chair, because I seem to be chosen every time. I'm quite happy for someone else to go before me.
Well, I can't carry on.
Go on, Joe.
Thank you, Nigel. Well, I've got just a couple of comments really, and the one that I'm very much querying is on page 169, CRR02, on the medium-term financial plan. That has moved from high to medium, and the target risk is low. I don't see the justification for that here. I mean, there's a lot of information in this, and I do hope that our new template is as good as this one, actually, because I do like this a lot, and we've been working on it and improving it.
It's better, yes.
It is very good, and you know, there's loads of information, but I don't see the justification for this moving from high to medium, and I certainly don't see the justification for it to be a target of having a low-risk, medium-term financial plan. You know, the sector we're in, the position we're in, our financial constraints and pressures, I don't think it's realistic to have a target risk of low for this particular item. First point, don't know if anyone wants to respond.
Can we deal with that?
Whether Nicola would be able to answer that question, or sort of...
I wonder whether we take that back with us and come back later, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
please. Yeah, but
thank you.
it is jumping out. CRR 16 then I have on page 173. That's Capacity challenges. Yes, I'm going to suggest that this could also cause capability challenges. Because risk there, the risk description, challenges in recruiting, but also within certain kinds of professions, create difficulties. So it's not just capacity, I don't think. I mean, if people aren't replaced with certain skills or expertise, then of course that's part of the risk very much in this. So I would suggest that we change the risk name there to capacity and capability challenges. That's all. I have no other queries on that particular one. There is a comment in there though, sorry, there is another little bit from me. Comment in there about the need to reduce the headcount by approximately 600 staff. You know, this has been in the media to some extent, but in any case, notice the word need and not decision, anything near decision. I'm just wondering about that. Is that accurately described, really? So I don't know if anyone wants to come back on that.
Yeah.
Please.
That was reflected in the workforce report that we took to scrutiny at the point of time where the budget time at that time, that need was 600. We're constantly reviewing that with leadership as the budget position changes. So there was a need at that time, but not a decision taken. That's something that we're constantly reporting on. And we've got a workforce group that goes into each week to review any vacancies. There's a vacancy management process born out of the transformation. So it's a need that's constantly reviewed. So it wasn't a decision taken as such. That's quite a dynamic thing that we review weekly with leadership team.
Mm. Yes, it's a big number though, isn't it? That's a problem. A heck of a number to be saying this has continued to be looked at.
At a point in time where we took the last scrutiny report into members, we'd already reduced it by 200 from natural wastage in the vacancy management process. It was things that we'd done in terms of restructures. There wasn't any hard redundancies at that time, and we're due to take another scrutiny report in September to review that workforce position.
That leads to another question. Is it current, therefore? You know, we're looking at a report here as of... When is this report off? Somebody clarify for me.
End of March.
End of March.
So our next one will go in September, so be reviewed at that point.
That figure might be different, or even a different wording to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Point where we review
So,
the risk, yeah.
As of March, this is what it
Yes.
was.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Anything else I've got? I just wondered about then, there's, sorry, I'm not sure what risk this is. It's the one about the staff sickness, I think. Wondered about whether, I want to just ask, is there anything there to do with, you know, considerably large numbers of staff working from home? Is there any correlation between people working from home and, you know, increases in sickness absence? I'm just thinking aloud, really.
Yes, please.
Just CRR 23, yes, it's on page 166.
We don't currently report on any correlation in relation to agile working and sickness. That's not a metric that's available to us that we've ever done that comparison, I'm sorry.
I mean, we can see there's a lot of mitigating actions going on here. You know, it's still high risk. So I was just curious about it, really, the extent to which reasons, if you like, for it are getting bottomed out or questioned even.
We do document the reasons within that workforce report that is taken to scrutiny, and we look at those and we provide mitigation on those reasons in which we report. There's regular analysis as to those that can be discussed and presented to members.
That would be a good sort of reference to put in here, you know, I don't know, to say that that report is going to scrutiny for us to have a look at it and be prepared for it and have a look ourselves and get better informed about some of these risks as well. You know, that's always a good idea, isn't it, to put in certain links into this risk register so that we can connect things up. You know? Thank you very much.
Okay. I mean,
Can I just add into that very question that kind of question is also at the scrutiny committees.
Yes.
So we get replies from officers on that, and it's very similar to what we've just had there. Being asked across the
authority. Good. Oh well, at least some of us are all on the same page. That's nice to know, isn't it?
I would just like to, I'll just make a comment, a personal comment here, that as far as I'm concerned, council staff, whether they're working on site, out and about, at home, they're working for the council. If they're sick, and they should be on sick leave. And I don't think that working from home or on site have any anything to going that, but that's just my personal opinion with my trade union hat on. Thank you very much. Okay, so is there anyone else wants to? I've scribbled down that Viv and Councillor Wright wanted to say something. Viv.
Thank you, Chair. My question is again about sort of more process, I suppose, and that is several of these risks in terms of their progress have now met their risk target. Do those now come off the corporate risk register and back into the directorates if they're responsible for in one directorate, or are you going to keep them on for a period of monitoring until you've had, say, more than 2 iterations of it still being on its target risk level? Thank you.
Chair, thank you. I think the answer to that would be both. It would be dependent on the risk. So in some cases, it would be transferred back down to directorate to continue to manage. But if you took, for example, the cost of living crisis, which is the first risk on the risk register, it is high and it will remain high. And our target risk is high because there isn't anything really that we can influence it with our capacity and the teams that we got, specialist teams looking at vulnerabilities, but the factors that are driving that risk are external to the council. However, we would still wish to continue to monitor it at the corporate level because it is so important for our communities. So it would be dependent on the risk. I think the answer to that would be Viv. But yeah, if it was something that had transferred down from medium to low and it could be managed at the directorate level, it would transfer to manage.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Cass, because what we don't want to do here is just keep things at that top level that can be managed further down. It's about having that dynamic piece of reporting, isn't it? So you can move things down and escalate them back up as and when required. But I get your sentiment in terms of the overall cost of living crisis. But again, we need to be sure that we're describing the risk appropriately for what the council can actually do rather than just leave it, because I think it's a little bit woolly at the moment. But that's all my comments. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Viv.
Chair, sorry, can I just echo what Vivian is saying there, really, because of course we have to give a chance for the new strategy to take effect, and I think we find that some of these things that we're picking up now will actually naturally improve, such as risk descriptions. But the other point that I had, which has now gone straight out of my head, doesn't matter. I'm sorry, it's gone. Really gone.
One of those moments.
Indeed.
Yeah. I scribbled down earlier that Councillor Wright, did you want to say something on this
the meeting, Chair.
She's left the meeting. I apologise for not keeping track of things. Thank you. Right. Okay, so if no one else has got...
Say something?
Of course you may.
We have noticed this strategy statement developing over the years, and now it's phenomenal. You know, it is. You know, the strategy is excellent. What I've got a problem with now is, how do I know it's working? Because what I get is a lot of actions going on here. Some information about how some are going on, but other than that, there's lots of actions to come on. And I've got to wait now for 6 months, and I get a red going to orange to know that something's working. Until then, there's no sort of information about whether the actions are working or not. I mean, there's so many. It's a forward-thinking thing, and you've had to put your heads together to find out first of all what is the risk, and that's developed phenomenally. If you look at the previous years, and you've got a few, now it's up to 19 or something like that now, isn't it? And the idea is then you put forward to try and relieve this risk. It is again phenomenal, but I don't know if it's going to work. You know what I mean? Until it's actually happening, and then you say, "Oh, that was a good success." That wasn't. So I don't know until it's changed from red to orange that something's happening. It'd be nice to say, "Yeah, that worked and that didn't," or whatever it was, because you're throwing things at it that are hopefully going to achieve something, but it doesn't give us any information about what actually happened. So it'd be nice to know if it works or not, or it is working, sort of thing, you know. And these things go on for quite a long time as well. It doesn't sort of happen in a week or two. It goes on for years sometimes, because these things are embedded in, you know, forward all the time, sort of thing, isn't it? You know. So let's see.
I was just going to say the new template hopefully will alleviate some of those concerns you've got, because we will be able to separate up the actions, and they've got target dates and progress to be able to report it against each of them individually, so you should be able to see more of a trend going on with each of the actions rather than them all being lumped in together.
And it's difficult to report to actually construct, isn't it? Because there's so many things going on there. It's big as it is. It's not any bigger though.
Anyway, that sounds useful, that we'll be able to see that. Have you remembered what you were going to say?
No, this is related to this now. This is related to the...
Okay.
The point you made there, Nigel, about how do we know when we see this. I mean, we are going to get the risk register now on a quarterly basis. We were getting it 6 monthly. If you remember, Leanne, we agreed that it would come to us on 2 of those quarters for discussion, but then 2 other quarters for information. So it's going to be there for you on a quarterly basis to see the movements that have happened. I mean, the movements are just all about probably the colours, really. You know, that tells you what's happening, really, if anything. Sometimes they're very static, aren't they?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so someone needs to move and second the approve this.
I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you again. Approved. So item 12, the risk management strategy and guidance, and we as a committee are asked to review the revised strategy and guidance, that it offers challenge and comment on the adequacy and effectiveness of the arrangements prior to their adoption by Cabinet on the 24th of June 2026. Kath.
Staying with the theme of risk, this report presents the revised risk management strategy and guidance, which were previously set out as 2 separate documents and now consolidated into a single document to provide a more integrated, accessible and consistent framework for managing risk across the Council. We're bringing together the strategic approach and the supporting operational guidance. The revised document removes some of the duplication we had previously. It should enhance clarity of expectations across the council and promotes a more consistent application of risk management across all services. It also strengthens the integration of risk management within the council's wider performance management framework, our planning and decision-making processes, ensuring that it's embedded as a core organisational activity rather than a standalone function. As a result, the updated document should enhance usability, governance and assurance by giving us a clear, more streamlined and effective approach to risk management. Revision follows, as you'll be aware, a review of the Council's risk management arrangements undertaken by internal audit during 2024-2025, which concluded, importantly, that the arrangements are generally effective or were generally effective, but identified a number of opportunities for improvement that could be considered, and certainly it's something that we recognise within our self-assessment reports as well. So we've been working with the self-assessment report and the internal audit report to come up with this updated document, which is set out at Appendix 1. It responds to several of the recommendations made by internal audit, including clarifying the Council's risk appetite, strengthening our processes and procedures, a better display of risk, and embedding a more consistent culture across the organisation. An example of the revised risk register template, which we intend to use from here on, is Appendix 2. You'll see they are single-page summaries now rather than the Excel spreadsheet. They do include all of the information which was in the Excel spreadsheet. Nothing has dropped off, but it will give us further information on the progress of actions, direction of travel, etc. You'll see that hopefully, it'll be easier to engage with on one risk per page rather than what we have currently. The strategy and guidance is presented to yourselves as Governance and Audit Committee to provide assurance on the adequacy and effectiveness of the updated arrangements, and you're invited to review the revised document and provide us with feedback. The intention is it will be considered for adoption by Cabinet in June. Obviously, we can make any changes that you suggest prior to that.
Thank you, Kath. Now, does anyone have any comments? Yeah. If you like, Viv has got in there just before you.
That's fine. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Delighted. Someone else is before me.
I'm sorry, Joe.
No, please don't apologise. You can't hear me.
I think for me, thanks very much, Kath, for the report, because I think actually this is moving in the right direction now, isn't it? Especially for people who are going to utilise the guidance. It's really helpful. Can you just tell me or remind me what it is we're going to see as a committee? So in terms of the report that we've just seen, will we still see that sort of landscape view of risk, or will we see one risk per page at a corporate level? That's the first question. And then secondly, it's a little bit of an ask from me, I suppose, in terms of just getting a feeling at that strategic level where the risks are. And perhaps this could be a corporate one and then pushed down into those directorate risks. Is a possibility of a heat map, so you can see, where we are in terms of that very visually and quickly pick that up. Thanks.
Someone could explain to me what a heat map is, please.
Shall I take the question, Chair? Yeah. Then if Viv would come back to any supplementaries,
okay, no problem.
We can deal with those in time. So thank you for your positive comments about the report, Viv. Really appreciate that. In terms of the sort of landscape or helicopter view, they will still be presented with a covering report. So the covering report should give you that flavour of risk movement and where we are in terms of changes. The intention is that we will present one page per risk. So you will end up with an appendice which has got, I don't know how many risks we've got on the risk register at the moment, potentially 12 individual documents, but we think that'll be a better way for both yourselves, and these documents also go to Cabinet and to Joint Scrutiny Committee as well. And so we've got a broad range of members who review these documents, so we think it'll be more visually accessible to them to be able to see one page per risk. You were used to seeing Excel spreadsheet documents, not all of our elected members are, so we think that'll be an improvement. In terms of the heat map, I suppose we could look to include something within the covering report that gives that flavour.
Yeah, I was just going to add, so in Appendix 2, that's just an example of what it will look like in one of the tabs. There is on the front sheet a summary page where you'll be able to click on each risk and it'll take you to the right tab and it shows you the direction of the risk. We're also looking at maybe doing a dashboard style front cover to remind of a pie chart, and exactly the heat map that you've just mentioned. We've already looked at that as an option as well. So we are looking at some sort of visual display on the very first page, and then you'll be able to click into the relevant risks that take you to the tabs to try and make you easier to navigate around.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. That's really, really helpful. For the chair, the heat map is like a blob map, so it'll look at where in a quadrant, if I can get my words out, where the reds are in terms of, you know, there are 4 reds, 3 ambers, 21 greens, and then you can look at that on an ongoing basis to see where that looks like, and it just gives you a bit of a flavour for risk. I think it would be a really good idea. One question I do have, Joe, on what you've just said is, sorry, my dog is just arriving. Get down. Get down. Is literally, you know, being able to click on something. Now, as lay members, we don't have any access to any documents. We only see the PDF documents that are presented. So is there any thoughts about how we could interrogate that, please?
Yeah, we could circulate the Excel document to you prior to the meeting at the same time as you get the PDF, so you'll be able to use the Excel to navigate rather than the PDF. There is some functionality to navigate within a PDF, but it's not as good as it would be if you had the actual Excel document.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. As a Mac user, that won't work for me. You'll have to be, you know, on the old-fashioned spreadsheets, unfortunately. But thank you very much. As I said, you know, it's for me, as a person who's worked in risk for a while, it's very, very good. I'd like to see how I'm going to navigate my way round being able to challenge effectively those sort of risks and the risk information. But thanks very much for your help.
Great. Okay. I think I prefer to have a Ladybird book of, as a fan of that. Does anyone else? Yeah, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is pointing certainly to a lot of improvement in our risk management as an organisation, and it reads great. Thank you very much. I was just slightly curious about who's involved in drawing it up, and you know, it has been getting worked on for some time. I know that, and it's going to really help with things that, you know, we've pointed out in the past, little simple things, maybe that risk descriptions will be sharper and more accurate, etc. And there's very good coverage of that in this report. It's a very good learning tool, actually, for everyone. I wanted to ask you about the categories for the risk appetite. Again, this is another very important and commendable development to determine the risk appetite of the authority as a whole and apply that then to the corporate risk register. I'm running through looking for those categories of the risk appetite section because I wanted to know really where have they come from, and have they been tested? I'm sure they've been tested, but you know, could I just check that they've been tested for completeness?
Thank you for your questions, Joe. So in terms of the working group, which is referenced within the report, that working group was the Chief Executive, Executive Director, a number of interested directors, and then Director of Finance, Director of Transformation, as you would imagine. We had internal audit there, but only as a critical friend because they had to maintain their independence. Joe as Head of Business Improvement and myself as Service Improvement Partnerships Manager. So I forget all the names, there was probably about 8 of us working together on it. And we broke the work up into themes, one of which was the risk appetite, because there was a recommendation that the council didn't have a risk appetite. So in developing that risk appetite, it was a case of looking at what other councils are doing and taking some advice and guidance from the Local Government Association websites, etc., looking at some SIP for work and trying to understand how we interpreted that within Caerphilly Council and how it applied to us. So the first thing for that working group to do was to assess the categories of risk and whether they felt that all of the categories of risk were covering all of the activity of the council in sufficient depth. And then subsequent to that, to have a conversation as to whether they can, what risk appetite they were willing to attach to those. And you will see that we've deliberately chosen only open and cautious. There are other ways of distinguishing risk appetite. However, the view of the working group was this is the first time that we as a council have looked at risk appetite. So we didn't want to overcomplicate it because people are going to have to assess their work against these appetite statements. So we've stuck with open and cautious at this point in time. That's not to say that it wouldn't change in future, or we may add additional categories in, but at the moment the working group think this is valid, and as I said, we looked across other councils, SIPFA, LGA, etc. I feel like we've got a good broad scope for categories there.
Sorry, would you mind just reminding us what page that's on?
195.
Just go back to that a moment then. Yes, I suppose, I mean, one of the points about risk is that it's a matter of perception. Different people perceive it in different ways. So I suppose the upside of that is you have a great richness in a way in the process, and in a large organisation like this. That's very much an advantage. I just wondered, you know, you say you looked across other areas, other councils, because it's not that widely developed, risk appetite across councils, is it? You know, it's something that a lot of councils haven't got around to. It's fairly new, and I was just curious therefore. But if you're saying that, you know, and of course the intention is that there will be a review, I suppose, of this strategy as we go forward, and hopefully the audit committee could get involved in that and get consulted on that before it's finalised. Maybe I would certainly welcome that if it can happen. But thank you very much for your explanation. I can see now there are a lot of categories here. Is something I would observe. There do seem to be a lot of them, and I'm wondering about whether, you know, even some of them could be combined, you know, to make it kind of slightly simpler. But the other thing, maybe that will come out of this eventually, and bearing in mind your new format, and you know, there's going to be a page per risk. That's going to be a big document. But maybe one of the things that could emerge is that the number of risks on our corporate risk register could be reduced, because there's a lot. Other authorities have this problem as well, and you know, it is difficult. You don't want to exclude anything, you don't want to miss something. But on the other hand, you know, 16, whatever number of risks, that is a lot of risk just to absorb. So maybe we can look to shortening the number of risks as well as we go forward and make it more manageable for everyone. Thank you.
Joe. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, right. If no one else has got anything to say there, we can have someone to move and second.
Chair,
Yeah.
I do beg your pardon. I have another little typo item. Can you believe it? It's the same word, principal. Except this time, page 196, needs to be principal this time. And we've got principal. You know? One of those words that...
Anyway, could someone move and second, please?
Move, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you. That's carried. So item 13, last on our agenda. Regulator Recommendations Tracker Progress Update. And we've been asked to note the updates provided against each of the recommendations, and note that 6 recommendations are now complete as detailed in Appendix A. Joanna.
This report provides an update on progress against the regulator recommendations since the last update to this committee in January 26th. There are currently 25 recommendations recorded on the tracker. Since the last report, 1 new recommendation has been added to the to the register following receipt of the Audit Wales report on capital plan. 6 recommendations have been completed. The recommendations are now set out in a clearer, more accessible way to make them easier to review. A direct link has been established between the recommendations and the corporate risk register where appropriate, strengthening the alignment between with organisational risks. Additionally, a colour-coded rating has been introduced for each recommendation to provide a clear visual indication of current progress and state. Actions arising from the regulatory recommendations will now be integrated into the Directorate Performance Assessments for 26-27. This will ensure that they are clearly owned, properly resourced and built into day-to-day service delivery. This will strengthen governance and accountability and improves oversight by bringing progress into our established performance management and reporting arrangements where it is regularly monitored, visible to officers and open to challenge. This approach also supports alignment with the corporate priorities and the wellbeing objectives. It improves risk management, provides a clear audit trail of progress and impact, and demonstrates a structured, proactive approach to continuous improvement and sustainable change. Members are asked to note the progress reported in the tracker and to satisfy themselves that appropriate action is being taken to address the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joanna. Now I've got scribbled down here that Councillor Chacken Dawson wanted to ask something. With us? No. Okay. Joe, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of comments, a couple of questions, sorry. Partly around page 234, the table that shows the extent of the recommendations being completed. I think this table would benefit from us having the date of the report in that first column, because it's hard to gauge then, other than, you know, how old are these reports. I know that you said, I think, that there's one additional one since the last time. Mm-hmm. It's a bit difficult to have to look back last time and so on. So I think maybe if we could put the date in of these reports, date of receipt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would that be possible?
Or into the covering report, yeah.
Into the page 234?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in the appendix, the date issued for each recommendation.
Yes. Right.
But in the covering report, yeah.
Okay. I would observe, and I could be wrong here, might not be understanding this properly, but there does seem to be a low level of completion of these recommendations, generally, generally. The highest percentage complete is actually on the scrutiny report, I think. Yes, no, sorry, the commissioning report. There is a 55% completion. The rest are quite low. Why is that generally, do you think? Their recommendations not getting implemented faster, I suppose.
I think some of them are long term. Would you agree, Kathy? Yeah, some of them are long term.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the reason why they just take some time to work through the organisation.
The deadline that would have been agreed by the management response is some way into the future. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Okay. Right. I suppose it's just about maybe looking in more depth. I didn't really look at the appendix, I have to admit.
We did last bring this to you in January, so it hasn't really been that long since we last brought it to you. I think it's next due to come in maybe December, so you might probably see more progress between this one and the December one, whereas this one's been quite a short period of time between us last bringing it to you.
That would make more sense then, yes, thanks. And then the other thing that I was interested in, again, you're going to tell me it's in the appendix maybe, what directorate is taking the lead really in these reports? It's not always obvious.
No, so in the appendix, like I say, we've tried to add more information in there, so it will give you the report name. It's got a link in there now that will take you to the Audit Wales website where you can view the actual full report. It's got the date issued, which you previously touched on when it was issued, and where it's been reported to, if it's come to this committee or if it's been to a scrutiny committee, and also the responsible officers. They're all detailed in the appendix.
That's right, I'm in the appendix.
Page, in the top top line 4.4, so the first
You can
one.
see that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. I shall pay more attention to this report in the future.
Yeah, we've tried to put links in there as well on the first page, so you can click on the link to take you to the right.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. If no one else has got any questions, we've just been asked to note which and then agenda item 14 hasn't been called for discussion, so I can conclude the meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this afternoon's Governance and Audit Committee. Declare the meeting closed. Members attending remotely, you may now hang up. So,
Thank you.